Hey guys, today we're going to be going over the second Excel dashboard tool in my Excel dashboard toolbox product, and that is how to dynamically display data using shapes in Excel. Let's have a peek. So in my Excel dashboard toolbox, we're looking at tool number 2, and what we're doing is dynamically displaying data using shapes in our dashboards. So we've built this little section on my dashboard that has a bunch of different shapes, in this case a bunch of squares, as well as some information that is going to allow us to dynamically display the data that is being selected. So if we wanted to go see how much inventory we had or what our on-hand value was for that part number, if we select the part number, you can see that this is updating based off of a set of data that we have on a calculations tab. So in this video, we're going to be checking out how we do this step by step. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below. We'll see you in there. All right, so the first step of building a dynamic shape display in your Excel dashboard is to build the calculation section for the display itself. So on our dashboard page, or on the calculation page of our dashboard, you can see that our drop-down selection is now being, basically we have the control of the drop-down selection. So item number 2 of the drop-down selection is done there. And then you can see that item selected based on that is part number 1001. So if I go back to the front end dashboard and we change between part numbers, you can see that it'll actually update that value. So what we're going to do is use this value and the VLOOKUP formula to actually go into a data set that we already have. In this case, we're going to want to return the quantity on hand and the on-hand value. So we're going to go equals in here, and we'll use the VLOOKUP formula. And this is always going to be referencing C4, so I'm going to hit F4, and that's actually going to make that value an absolute value, so it will not change as I move my formula down. And then what I'm going to do is actually select from column G all the way over to column I, and I'll also make that absolute. And that is our area, or our array, that we want to select. And then column 3 is the column that I want to return. So we did our lookup of C4, so we want to find C4 from our first column G, and then we want to return the third column, which is the quantity on hand. So that's the third column is the third value, and then we want to type in false here. Then we'll just close the bracket simply, and you'll see that the quantity automatically updates for us and shows the quantity on hand of 49. So you can see that part number 1002, if we look at our list, is actually 49. So if we now do the same below, I can actually copy and paste this formula right now into that cell. So I just did Control C and Control V to repaste that. You can see the formula up here. What I'm going to do, the simple thing is, because we've made this absolute and it's going to still refer to that range, all I want to do is actually re-highlight to column J. So just move over a column, you can see that went there, and then we're just going to switch this value to the 4th column, and I'll hit enter. So you can see that the value here is now 17,647. So we'll turn that into a currency value. And now what we've done is build the back engine of our dashboard display. So in the next step, what we're going to do is actually look at building the visual display with the objects and using these values. And quickly, what we should do before I leave is I'm going to actually make these a named range. So we'll just say quantity on hand, or we'll say QOH as the quantity on hand for the name of that file, so we can actually use that reference in our dashboard after. And then also what I'll do is on hand value, which is OHV, and we can do that. So in the next portion of this video, what we're going to do is actually look at how we can build this portion of it onto a visual display. Let's take a look. All right, so in this portion of the video, we're going to look at how you generate and create the dynamic display on your dashboard. So you can see I've already used shapes to actually create the dynamic shape display. And what I have is I've got multiple different shapes selected and grouped together. So if you were to select multiple different shapes, and you use shapes just by going to the Insert tab and then going to Illustrations and then selecting shapes. If you were to create those, of course, in this case I just created a bunch of squares, and then you highlighted each of them using Shift and left click. If you go right click and you go to group once you have multiple selected, you can actually see that it will allow you to do that. In this case, I've already got them all grouped. So that's how you build the actual visual display. I didn't want to actually bore you guys too much in showing you how to do that. So now I've got 2 shapes that I'm going to use. So under the on-hand quantity, I actually put quantity on hand on my calculations tab, and then under my on hand value here, we're going to actually display these quantities dynamically because these are automatically updating back on our calculations tab based off of our drop down selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to select the shape, and I'm going to type in equals QOH, and you'll see that it automatically displays and changes the value based off of my calculations tab. So what I can do now is actually go and set this to 20 and reset my value to the font that I had earlier, which was Sago. So I'm just going to switch this up, guys, and use our drop down here real quick. It's being stubborn. Here, let's scroll all the way through. And if we go down to the bottom, I think I had Sago UI, and we can just bold that by clicking Control B, and then I can also now just change the font color to white. Same thing now would apply over here. What we're going to do is now type in equals on hand value, which is OHV, and that is referring to the name range that we had on our other site. Now if we go here and we select 20 again, this thing is stubborn, as you can see, so we're just going to select Sago UI again. We'll go to 20. 20 is a little hefty there, so we'll go to 16, and then I can actually put that in a white font, and you can see that it is updated. So now if we were to select this drop down and we flip between each of the parts, you can see that the value is updating, and it's also updating the values on our calculation tab, which is of course where these values are coming from. So now we've got that portion finalized. One of the things that you can actually do is now make these objects no longer touchable by the user. So this is kind of the last step of this video. So let's take a look at how to do that. Alright, so the last step of this video is to freeze these shapes so that you cannot move them. So right now you can see that that's actually clickable. I'm going to undo that by hitting Control Z. But if we go over to our Review tab, and in here we can actually select Protect Sheet. So we're going to select Protect Sheet, and it's going to say select cells, lock cells and select unlock cells. We can password protect it. In this case I'm not going to actually password protect it, but I'm going to just hit OK here. And what you're going to notice is we can put values. Actually, it locks everything up here. So if you can still dynamically select the values in our dashboard here, and if you are to try and move this, I can't click on this value, so it's actually locked the shapes on here so that nobody can actually change it. So if we were to, if somebody was coming in here and using this dashboard, you wouldn't have to worry about the shapes being displayed or the formulas being interrupted. So now if we select a different part, like I said, you can see that this is updating accordingly. So this is how you build a dynamic shape display in your Excel dashboards. It's super useful, a great visual way of displaying your data. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. We will see you next time.